My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we've made great progress as a nation, capital N. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors, and expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances, passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America's never been better positioned to lead than where we are today. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve you as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work, and to let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you've placed in me. I believe today what I always have: there is nothing America can't do. When we do it together, we just have to remember we are the United States of America. I imagine now they're probably working behind the scenes to figure out what the next step is, because it kind of has to be Kamala Harris. Do you think this Democrat, since it's so close to election season? I mean, it could, or it could be really good. It's like I said before, the margins of like what can happen now are so much greater and so much worse than what it could have been. It could be that somebody gets swapped in. I'm just going to repeat what I said a week ago or whatever. Somebody gets swapped in, and it could be like a huge revitalizing moment where everybody is like super hyped and the next candidate is like younger and, you know, yeah, and it could be an amazing moment. Or it could be that somebody else comes in and there's like a whole bunch of baggage that wasn't revealed before, and now you've got a couple months before the election and that's all people are talking about. Like, who knows? It's a lot of uncertainty. I will say, I think if I was running for the president under the Democrat thing, I feel like the only thing I would repeat over and over again, it would just be like being salty. But I would just repeat over and over again. I was like, okay, well, every single person in the country constantly said, why is it that these are the two candidates we can vote on? Why is it Biden and Trump? Why is it these two candidates? Well, time to show that that actually meant something when you said it. I don't understand how this bullying is democratic. You talked with Pisco yesterday about how primaries are not binding or whatever. How is this democratic? When you talk about primaries and you talk about parties, the parties are private parties. The Democratic Party is not the government, and the Republican Party is not the government. So there's not some constitutional obligation to them. Biden has to, constitutionally has to be the candidate forever, The only mistake was not endorsing Harris in the statement. They're probably they probably don't even know what they want to do next. They probably don't know 100% if they want to endorse Harris. Probably, I feel like they kind of have to, but I think the writing was probably on the wall when stuff started getting leaked to the press, because it's pretty obvious that they're trying to do like external pressure. If all this stuff is getting leaked to the press, it's not happening on accident, right? Especially stuff with like Obama and shit. If this much high-level communication is getting leaked to the press, it's probably to put pressure on Biden to step down. Okay, well, there we go. My fellow Democrats, I've decided not to accept the nomination and to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president. It's been the best decision I've made. Today, I'm going to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this. Oh my God, she's a child. She's an actual toddler compared to the age of these candidates. Only 50. She doesn't even qualify for Social Security. I don't even know if she can take early Social Security yet. Jesus. Freshly 59. Is this pretty much locked in now, or can the DNC throw a curveball still? I mean, it's not like legally locked in or anything. Like they could still change it, but realistically, it would be wild for them to change course. My assumption is going to be, if Biden stepped down, then he definitely was speaking to the party about it. So if he was speaking to the party about it and party leaders, there's probably a conversation about who to nominate, and there should be a coherent and consistent plan moving forward. So if this is the nomination that Biden is doing, unless he's doing this at the party or something, then this should be the direction for it. I doubt they're going to do like an open convention, and I doubt they're going to do picking a different candidate. I don't think they can pick a different candidate, right? Like realistically, I don't think that would survive. Why are people excited about Kamala? Do polls even suggest she'll do better than Biden in key states? I think it's literally right now, I really think it's just to get over the senility talking point. No, it is. It's 100%. That's the only reason. What will be the main talking point of MAGA against Kamala? I imagine something to do with California. It would have been similar to for Newsom. That would be my guess. Actually true. Metal. Oh, fuck. Could we? Okay, record this prediction. So if I'm right, okay, it's based, okay? I bet Donald Trump is going to say that this pick is anti-democratic and he doesn't support that poor Biden is being robbed of his nomination, just like Bernie Sanders is. And he's going to use that as an excuse to skip any debate with Kamala Harris. And he's not going to do any future debates with her so that he doesn't have to look like a fucking clown on stage. The reason why it probably has to be Kamala Harris is because for logistical reasons, she can inherit all the campaign funds, although that isn't necessarily like crucial because they could toss it all to a super PAC and run ads that way. But so logistically it probably has to be, but I think like morally or ethically or on brand, I think that it probably looks really bad for you to skip over your vice president and say that we're going to pick somebody else when it's like that's the vice president. Yeah, I don't know. Do you think it's 100% about Biden's age, or is any of his other positions influenced this decision? I think it literally just comes down to that debate, unfortunately. Do you think there's anything to be gained from Biden stepping down from being president now and letting Kamala become the current president? It would probably add a lot of responsibility to Kamala. It'd probably add a lot of drama to the race that they don't need. It'd probably be good for her to focus on running rather than like making her the president and everything too, yeah. Opinions on Pete Buttigieg as a nominee. Personally, I really like Pete, but I don't know if everybody's drawn to that aesthetic. There's a weird, I don't know how to say this. In the United States, I think for gendered roles for men, I think intelligence is not as highly valued as like charisma or there's like a presence. I don't know how to explain it. But like having somebody step up and be like knowing all the stats and the figures and blah, blah, blah. I don't think that Americans value that as much. That's a trait that I value a lot. I hold that trait in very high regard. That's why I like Pete so much in the last primaries. But I remember seeing, I don't remember if it was polls or maybe it was just articles, but people were saying they didn't like Pete because he was too elitist. Like he speaks 4 languages. Wow, look at this guy. He's so smart. Oh my God, right? People like didn't like that. They actually, they just weren't a fan of that. So I don't know if, I don't know if Pete would ever be appealable to the, and then also the minority vote is a very important component of the democratic process for the Democrat Party, and Pete's gay, so it'd be a first husband, so that would be that'd be a thing. Opinion on female candidate versus a man. Will people be misogynistic? I mean, I think it plays a little bit. I think race and misogyny play a little bit into it, but and then together you got your intersectional dynamics. But I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Hillary destroyed Trump in the popular vote. Obama, had record turnout for his election. That was a woman. That was a black man. Maybe it doesn't matter as much. Maybe we're, in a way, as much as it triggers people on the left, I think we're kind of past that stuff a little bit. Like, I feel like the Conservative Party today is so interested to see how the political and cultural landscape changes in the country. I think that the Conservative Party today doesn't really manifest racism the same way that it kind of did 20 years ago. And it doesn't really manifest sexism the same way either. You have people that, like, I feel like now the focus is on trans people. Like, that's the thing that people are so incensed about on the right. And then you have, I don't know if the gendered stuff I just feel like it hasn't been as much of like mainstream Republican discourse. But also this is like going by what I see on media networks and everything too. Maybe there is like a lurking feeling that is kind of like creeping somewhere that just hasn't come out anywhere. I'm not sure. Hillary won the popular vote. You never mentioned that. I feel like I've said that twice today, and I feel like I mentioned it literally every single time. But we've been hearing from these supposed centrists that they just can't vote for Biden because of his age. I'm curious on what their excuse will be when they still vote for Trump anyways. Well, keep in mind there's a difference between like the centrists online. If somebody says they're centrist online, they're always a conservative. 99% of the time, they're conservative. They just, for some reason, well, no, it's not for some reason, because they want to have the aesthetic of being nonpartisan, so they won't say it. But I think, oh man, I hope Kamala gets her debate with Trump. Is it fair and also soy to realize that women voters are basically our last line of defense from turnkey tyranny? I think women are an important vote. It's very funny to me to listen to some people in the United States talk about how worthless, and I think it's mainly the left that does this, right? The left will say shit like voting doesn't matter. I'm sorry. When I say the left, I mean the far, far left. So like, voting doesn't matter. Who cares? Nobody gives a fuck. Your vote doesn't mean anything. And then on the right, they're like, we have to find everything we can to ban voting in as many ways as possible. No mail-in ballots, gerrymander like crazy, no early voting, cancel these voting, right? Like on the broad part, like on the right, there's so much focus on like, how do we restrict voting as much as possible, as many ways as possible. On the left, like, I don't even think voting matters. Probably doesn't matter at all. Who cares? No one cares. And it's like, interesting, yeah. I was going to say from real life experience too, it was very interesting going online and see, and again, it might just be the city we were in, but especially online, especially white people talking about how irrelevant voting is and it doesn't solve issues for minorities and the people that really matter. When we were walking door to door to make sure that people were registered to vote, oof, those black people, they knew all of their shit. I didn't go up to a single fucking household. When I knock on the door, like, hey, just make sure you guys know you're like, baby, I already registered, blah, blah, blah. I dragged my husband down to the police, we, blah, 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 blah. All of them, every single fucking door that I went to, every older black couple, all of them were registered to vote. All of them knew exactly when the voting dates were. All of them knew who they were voting for. It was a really big deal. I don't know how many other people came canvassing with us in Columbus, but yeah, they all had their shit on lock. I was like, damn. Do you think there can be such a thing as a true centrist? When I think of like, it just depends on what a centrist means. It really comes down definitionally. I think there are some definitions where I'd be included as a centrist. So for instance, I've got some positions on the left, some on the right. Generally, I'm on the left though. And then some people could consider me a centrist in that I'm not politically partisan. Like I have a core system of values, and then from there I generate political beliefs. And then most of them just happen to line up on the left. But then in other ways, people say, you're absolutely not a centrist, you're super partisan. Because right now, I'm basically vote blue no matter who. Basically, when it comes to Trump's administration and people that support him, I would vote for almost any Democrat conceivable over Donald Trump. So that would be like, well, you're not a centrist at all. So it really just depends on what you mean when you say centrist. And then other people are just too scared to take a position on anything, or they don't know anything. So they're like, oh, I don't prefer anybody. Or they're carrying water for conservatives. I think that this is more commonly a pundit thing, like an online thing, than like an actual voter thing. I don't know. I don't know if I hear ordinary citizens do this as much, but I hear a lot of online content creators do this, where they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm centrist. I'm nonpartisan," but every single thing they do is in support of Trump and in opposition to Biden. So it's like, gun to your head, RFK or Trump. I think from what I've seen and from what I understand right now, without doing more research, I think it's an easy vote for RFK. It's an easy vote for RFK. He comes off to me as like being very conspiratorial. I really don't like his foreign policy positions. But it feels like he does have a respect for like rule of law and democracy, and he like kind of wants to move the country in like a positive direction. What he considers to be a positive direction. I don't think Trump wants to move the country in a positive direction. I think if he does, it's a byproduct of him satisfying his own narcissism. Trump's primary concern always has been and always will be himself. Oh man, I saw a clip of this really smart young guy talking about how he was saying that if Abraham Lincoln was running today for president, he wouldn't be able to do it because the only thing TV does is allows narcissists basically to run for president, and the television and entertainment destroys Americans' ability to pick good candidates. Kind of. Hold on, let me find this clip. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Some people, the ultimate goal in life has been becoming the President of the United States. Would you like to be the President of the United States?
I really don't believe I would run it, but I would like to see somebody as the President who could do the job, and there are very capable people in this country.
Most people who are capable are not running for office. Most men are frightened of politics today.
It is a shame, isn't it?
Yes.
It is a shame. The most capable people are not necessarily running for political office, and that is a very sad commentary on the country. They had major corporations and they had this and that, but they are not running for political office.
Why wouldn't someone like yourself run for political office? You have all the money that you possibly need. You've accomplished a great deal, even though you are only 34. I know there's a lot of things that you possibly can do in the years ahead. Why wouldn't you dedicate yourself to public service?
Because I think it's a very mean life. I would love and I would dedicate my life to this country, but I see it as being a mean life, and I also see it as somebody with strong views and somebody with the kind of views that are maybe a little bit unpopular, which may be right, but may be unpopular, wouldn't necessarily have a chance of getting elected against somebody with no great brain but a big smile. And that's a sad commentary for the political process.
Television, in a strange way, has ruined that process, hasn't it?
It's hurt the process very much. I mean, the Abraham Lincolns of the world, Abraham Lincoln would probably not be electable today because of television. He was not a handsome man, and he did not...
Interesting. Why don't you stand on if Trump wins, all minorities and LGBT members will be in camps? Why not go full schizo? You're scared of Trump ruining our democracy? Because I don't know if he would put all minorities or LGBT people in camps. I don't think Trump hates minorities or LGBTQ members. I think he's got really stupid views on immigration. I think he's got really stupid views on immigrants. And I think he's got probably just whatever the bog standard conservative views are on trans people. But my issues with Trump don't have to do with like IDPOL stuff. They have to do with like American democratic institution stuff. Why does the whole trans discourse seem overblown and inorganic? Is it possible that the whole narrative was designed to cause chaos? No, I think the trans narrative comes from the fact that conservatives have no policy and no platform to run on. So they have to focus on niche social issues because it's literally the only thing they have to talk about, and it's the only thing that energizes their base. If you envision like a fascist as like an ultra-nationalist authoritarian, then the only thing that a fascist needs to talk about are things related to ultranationalism. So like tariffing everybody, being highly protectionist, things talking about just the country being the best of the world and we need to get away from everything else. And then talking about how you basically want to be like an emperor or a dictator, right? These are the only two things that the Republican Party basically focuses on. Things like policy and shit, nobody really gives a fuck. Immigration is a massive issue that energizes the Republican base way more than trans issues. No. The Republican Party doesn't care about immigration or immigration reform or anything to do with immigration. The only thing the Republican Party cares about are pictures at the border if they think that there's like a new caravan coming. That's it. Republicans have no concept of immigration. They don't even know what's wrong with our border right now. They didn't give a fuck when Trump killed legislation in the House to fix our border issues. Like, Republicans only care about it as a talking point, and they only care about it when they're like scary pictures of it. But otherwise, Republicans have no desire, no concept of what's going on, no ideas for how to fix anything. Like, it's just, yeah. At Destiny, just admit the House bill just gave more money to process the immigrants. Nothing to stop the number coming over. One, you're perma-banned for being factually wrong. And then two, you're factually wrong because the bill allowed the government for the first time to put a cap on people coming over seeking asylum if the numbers were hitting too high of a mark. You don't know that, though, because all you've ever heard are Republicans lie to you and say that the bill basically made it so 5,000 a day could come over, ignoring the fact that there are many days where far over 5,000 come over, and the bill allowed them to cap it at 5,000. So at most, only 5,000 people could do an asylum seek per day, whereas right now, sometimes 10,000 or more will seek it. Yeah, but you heard that. You heard that probably from a centrist candidate, or not a candidate, some centrist pundit or a Republican pundit that said, oh, they wanted 5,000 a day coming over, not realizing that was a cap, not a minimum. I think the whole anti-immigration thing is an innate ethno-nationalism thing, and the reason they focus on illegal immigration is because the social and political climate is not ready for them to be outright with their feelings, that they don't want more racial aliens living in their country. I don't know. Racism and how it manifests and everything in the Republican Party is very interesting. I don't, just from like the broad stuff I see, even from pretty far right commentators, like if I'm thinking of like Daily Wire people, I don't usually see much like outright racial rhetoric. Sometimes I do when it comes to like crime in cities, or people will flirt with kind of like anti-black stuff. But I think it's very telling that when you look into far right racist groups who are like alt-right, like far right in the US, these groups are way more ethnically diverse than they used to be, which is very funny and very interesting, right? You've got Nick Fuentes doing content with, who is that, the black cringe rapper dude? But like your neo-Nazi movements in the United States are incredibly ethnically diverse compared to, but I don't watch a lot of Fox News and I don't listen to OAN. I don't know how big OAN is anymore. I'm not sure. Didn't they just have a meltdown over RNC speakers? So on Twitter, there was a huge meltdown over the Indian wife thing, but I can't tell how much of that. It's really, really hard. It's interesting because I feel like Twitter went from being, this is an appropriate graph. If this is real life, if this line represents the flow of real life, I feel like in like 2010, like social media is like way out here. It's so not representative. And then like as times changed and we hit probably the peak around from like 2018 to 2022, Twitter is like hitting more kind of like Bernie Sanders has to disavow activity on Twitter because like all of his fans and like the Justice Dems and everybody like pulling tweets and having people be big on Twitter and social media and playing Among Us on Twitch is like a really big deal. And now I feel like Twitter is pulling off like sharply from reality. And I don't know if it's because of the botting situation or if it's because of all of the paid by Russia influencers like Tim Pool and everybody that are giving like all the anti-American standard talking points to try to sow dissent and chaos. I don't know, but I feel like Twitter has become, I don't know if it's like over the past year. I feel like when Elon first bought it, I don't think that it was even bad in Elon's first few months after acquisition, but Twitter just feels very strange. I will say though, that could also just be because of the political circles that I run in or the people that I fight with too. Maybe other people's feeds look significantly different than mine. Or Rickety Rocket is just come into the country through the right channels. Too much to ask for, Destiny. I'll say this one time, just as a quick thing, okay? Also, remember, if you are a liberal, okay, conservatives do not care about democracy, all right? They do not engage in good faith. Remember, when a conservative gives an argument, he's playing with it. It's fun. This is a fun activity and a fun action for him. The actual argument, what's being said and the conclusion of said arguments don't actually matter. They play in it and they delight in you trying to grapple with them in some intellectually consistent or rigorous manner. They don't care. It's all a joke to them. None of these people give a fuck about the country, about America, about the structure of the country, or anything else, okay? It's all just a joker game to them. This is conservatism 101. In the United States right now, as of now, this is conservatism 101. So the answer, the factual answer that I'll give to you, but it's not going to change your mind or any conservative's mind because you don't care, is the big issue that we have right now with immigration. The huge issue that we have right now is the fact that you can walk up to the border and claim asylum. That's the big issue right now. The reason why it's impossible right now for the government to do anything is because of the laws on the books. If an immigrant comes up to the border and they say, we want to seek asylum, you basically have to cut them a ticket and say, okay, well, here's your hearing. It's in like 2 years because we've got like 1 million, 2 million, 3 million cases backed up right now. The legislation that was originally written by Senator Lankford, that was proposed in the House, that Democrats and Republicans initially were supporting, we're going to increase the amount of funding, increase the amount of judges available for asylum processes, increase some funding for border security, cap potentially the maximum number of asylum seeking per day if it exceeded a certain amount. This was supposed to deal with the asylum seeking problem. But the issue is Donald Trump called up the Republicans, and none of what I'm saying right now is conspiracy. It's all open. We watched Ted Cruz talk about this. Donald Trump basically made a call and said, you guys can't support this. I need the border to remain open until election day because conservatives don't care about the country. They don't care about the health of any of the people here. They only care about holding on to power right now. So the Republicans pulled their support from the bill. Again, we watched Ted Cruz say even before he read it, he didn't support it. And now after he's read it, he definitely doesn't support it, right? But they all pulled their support from the bill because nobody wants to backstab Daddy Trump because Trump will destroy your career, as he's he's done to multiple politicians in the past. And all Republicans want to talk about when it comes to border security is building the wall and building the wall and making the wall taller and helping border security. But it doesn't matter right now. You don't need a wall. It's not doing anything because people aren't sneaking into the country. People aren't tearing down the wall. They're not climbing over. They're just going up to a border patrol person and saying like, hey, can I seek asylum? Oh, you have to accept me. Thanks. Give me a ticket. I'm going to go hang out in here while I wait for my case. And then boom, you're done. You can have the most Terminator T-7000, whatever wall you want. It doesn't matter. You're just going to walk up to a border agent and seek asylum. That's the big issue right now. That's why shit is so right now. But yeah. Why did Biden step down? I think it, well, one of the things that I said, I always say this, that when people talk about like, because people ask me like, oh, talk to the keys to the election guy, or what about this, that this predicts everything. People always say like XYZ predicts everything for the election. If you get these things, you win the election, or this has mattered, this hasn't mattered. And then I've always said, well, one of the reasons why I don't care about these things is that they matter until they don't. So historically, and I think we've even joked about this on stream, historically, debates actually haven't mattered at all, or rather they don't change the needle much. Except for when they do, I guess. So like for Kennedy Nixon, I think they might have. And I guess for this election, probably. I think that everything that's happened has just been a response to that one debate that Biden had on stage with Trump. That would be my guess. Do you think that Kamala's presidency will live up to Biden's? I have no idea. Who knows? For the next 4 years, nobody knows what they're going to look like. I think it's obvious why asylum is not capped. It should be people running from persecution, but as you mentioned, the issue is in enforcement, sorting out who's legit. Yeah, I mean, like in a perfect world, but again, you can't even have these conversations because Republicans are deranged. But in a perfect world, asylum shouldn't be uncapped, right? Like, let's say that there was like some, like a cartel got a hold of a nuclear weapon and they announced that they're going to nuke Tijuana or some shit. And like 50,000 Mexicans want to flee across the border and seek asylum for a month. Like, that should probably be okay. The problem, though, is that you're getting a lot of people, probably. I wonder if is there a link to, like, what are the asylum case approval rates? It feels like, based on, this is just like news and shit I've read, I guess. I haven't looked at these numbers, but it feels like people are just seeking asylum because they just want to immigrate to the United States. They basically come up, they're like, hey, I'm seeking asylum because they just want to immigrate here. And it's like, okay, well, that's not really what that process should be used for. Percentage of asylum cases granted. Destiny, a guy ended his campaign after saying yeah too enthusiastically at a rally. Fuck, who was that? Was that Rick Perry? It wasn't, right? Oh, who was that? Who was that? Ted something? No. Was this in 2016, 12? Who am I thinking of? Oh, Howard Dean. This is a long time ago. Was this really that big of a deal? 2004? This is a long, long time ago.
You know something? You know something? If you have...
Genuine question, why'd they tie the border bill to Ukraine funding? Because bills are always like tied together and the people are always trying to get stuff passed. Congress is its whole beast, okay? Destiny, I just wanted to tell you this before it's too late. Before it's too late. That's a little ominous. Thank you for being yourself regardless of what the status quo is. I love that I was able to at least witness someone of your caliber. Thank you, I think.
You know something?
Wait, sorry, fuck. I didn't realize how truly bad January 6th was till your recent commentary. I want to ask you how you consume information accurately. I feel like because of biases in media, how do I consume day-to-day articles to stay informed on issues while not getting biased reporting from either side mixed in? I feel like having to read 3 to 4 articles from different sources to get an actual idea of the current story. Realistically, the average American isn't spending the time to vet their information. Honestly, my dude, I don't know. I can do it because it's my job and because I enjoy doing it, like as a hobby. If you didn't enjoy doing it as a hobby or job, ideally, what I should be able to tell you is find a pundit that you trust and watch them, and hopefully they give you a decent, digestible version of the news. But there's like almost nobody that I would recommend in media. Yeah, it's so bad out there. Alternative media is like brain rotting, and this news is fucked up so hard too. My God, that Dominion case, holy shit, unreal. Destiny, the 5K cap was irrelevant because the average daily is below 5K. The halt was on a rolling 7-day average. The single-day closing was 8,500, not 5K. I don't remember if you read or just an article. I think we read an article, but then I think we also read the bill itself. I understand what you're saying, that you were able to halt immigration to 5K a day, but it was based on a rolling average. That is true. I don't remember if the rolling average was 7 days or 14 days, but it was based on a rolling average, but it still would have given you the ability to cap asylum seeking, which is anything that could have brought it down would have been good, right? Okay, let me...
You know something? You know something? If you had told us 1 year ago that we were going to come in third in Iowa, we would have given anything for that. And you know something? You know something? Not only are we going to New Hampshire, Tom Harkin, we're going to South Carolina and Oklahoma and Arizona and North Dakota and New Mexico. And we're going to California and Texas and New York. And we're going to South Dakota and Oregon and Washington and Michigan. And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House. Yeah! We will not give up. We will not give up in New Hampshire. We will not give up in South Carolina. We will not give up in Arizona or New Mexico, Oklahoma, North Dakota, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan. We will not quit now or ever. We want our country back for ordinary Americans.
Problem was, he did this in 2004 and not 2016 when we had more meme energy. Don't forget hiring more asylum officers and judges to adjudicate and enforce cases. Even without a cap, the bill was good. Yeah, of course, yeah. It wasn't capped at 5K. Yes, it wasn't capped at 5K. It allowed them to cap it, or it allowed them to shut it off if it hit that 5K on a rolling average. It didn't cap it at 5K every day. There are certain days could exceed it, yes. But it allowed them to cap it or shut it down if the rolling average exceeded a certain amount, which right now they have no ability to do. As a foreigner, American media seems uniquely messed up. News channels in Europe are very chill. I don't know if it comes down to a legal thing, but in the United States, we still very much... I don't know if it's like the for-profit stuff, or if it's the lack of a good state-funded media channel, or if it's just America being America. We're very loud. We're very boisterous. It's just kind of our attitude. I don't know. Shut it down for how long? I don't remember if it allowed you... I think it was like you could either cap it daily, or it might be to shut it down for a 2-week period, or it might have been shutting it down for the day, or it might have been capping it at a certain amount past. I'd have to go look it up, yeah. But I mean, this bill is dead as so. To be fair, the GOP passed HR 2 bill and the Dems sent it down to take it up because the HR 2 bill was unhinged. That bill was that bill never had a shot in hell at passing in passing the House. It was never going to. Or passing the Senate. That bill was DOA, and they knew it. They knew that bill was dead on arrival. Sad to hear that. I feel like the other half of the issue is that people are so emotionally invested versus consuming information in a factual manner. Like ever since this Trump shit happened and Twitter evolved, people tried to appeal politics on emotional levels versus a factual one. I mean, like it's always been a factor that people are more emotional than logical. That's always been the case. Some people will pretend that at times people aren't. Some people pretend that only one gender is more emotional or whatever. But every country, every nation, every people are all susceptible to things like fear or whatever else. Yeah. Why does nobody seem to care about intelligence anymore? Buttigieg was a Rhodes Scholar. I don't know if Americans and men have ever valued intelligence. I think that's always been in American media, I think that's more of kind of a feminine trait. There's like some base level of intelligence that people expect you to have, but I don't think that super intelligence is seen as like a very big, like masculine leadership type of trait. I don't think that that's generally true in Western media and US media.